5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good day, goodbye, hello, wherever you are in the world, one of those will apply to you. Welcome along and welcome back. It's LTID TV from Leicester Till I Die, and I have my red teacher pen out. That is my red teacher pen. I didn't really think it was like anything else that might be red that is that size. Talking about being red and that size. Good evening, Brad. How are you?
Good evening, mate. It's been a while, hasn't it?
It has. I went on holiday and I decided I might as well come back. Oh, I'm not saying I was been deported or anything, but there we go,
That's not what I heard.
Hiya, Ray. How are you doing? Ray is in. As you can see from the whichever way it is, I can never get on that side. Oh no, it's there. We go. It's on that side. I never know where. I never know where to put my finger. There's a joke in there somewhere, but I'm not going there. Player ratings. Please do join in. If you are watching live on YouTube, please join in with the chat and see if you agree or disagree with myself and Brad. If you're watching on Catch Up, stick your thoughts in the comments below on YouTube. And if you're listening via your favourite podcast platform, thank you very much indeed for lending me your ears. It seems a long time ago, Brad, that we sat here at the end of Steve Cooper's reign and said, let's mark the players and then we can compare them at the end of the season and see whether how much they've improved by when it comes to then under Ruud. I don't think we've got many that have actually improved.
No, I don't think so either. We may have one or two shock candidates that have propelled in the grade, but rest of them have pretty much either met our expectations we met in the first semester, and come the end of year, I don't think we've got any of our students coming up for the excellent files, have we, Chris? To say the least.
Not many of them are going on to university, let me put it that way.
Some of them aren't even getting out of year one.
Yeah, some are being sent back down again to do the year again. I don't know. I couldn't live through that again, could you?
No, it was hard enough the first time.
It was. For those that remember, when we did it back in sort of December, we went from A+ down to D-, and then there was U as well. I didn't realise I'd forgotten there was E and F because I'm an old bugger and I couldn't remember that far back. So it's A to D with pluses and minuses, and then U for unclassified. Couple of players that we marked in the first section that we haven't done in this section. Chowdhury, because he went out on loan, so of course we can't rate him. Fatawu was injured for the rest of the season, so we couldn't do him either. And thankfully, Danny Ward never played again. So, some good news.
Yeah, small good news.
Yes.
I mean, speaking of Danny Ward, I've heard that Wrexham rumour, and people can't figure out why. And it's okay, guys. Wrexham are a charitable bunch, right? Ryan Reynolds is just making sure he's closer to Wales so he doesn't have far to travel to the Wales bench when they go on international duty. It's not a big money move. He's not getting loads of money. It's just so he's closer to the Wales international bench. Don't you worry.
In fairness as well, that's because that was where he started.
Was it? I didn't know he was.
That was his first team, but when he bloody wished that he'd stayed there. To be honest with you, but there we go. We've got to move on from Danny Ward, haven't we? Because he's moving on. Thank God. I love the fact that they're saying, and I think I said to you on your comment that Wrexham are in talks with Leicester. Why we've let him go? You know, you don't have to ask us permission.
Yeah. Sometimes I think people poorly word things. I've had a few taboos with people about the wording of things, i.e. release clauses being set, not negotiated or agreed upon. That's more professionally put. But yeah, they're not going to go. I suppose they're just saying, if anything, they're probably going, hey, look, Leicester, are you going to offer Danny Ward a new contract? And once we finished laughing, we said, no, feel free to talk to him.
Yeah. Right, just to say, there's going to be 2 shows tonight. I'll put the second one for 8:30, but it's just so I can split the show up for editing later. So we're going to go Ayew through to Mavadidi on this one. Then we'll jump off this one. I'll put 8:30 down just to split them up, but whatever time we are ready for the next show, we will just go straight live to that one and go from McAteer through to Mr. Wing. Sorry. Right. Now I know what Brad's put here. He doesn't know what I voted though, so it will be interesting. Are you ready, Brad?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be, mate.
Anything can happen in the next half an hour. That used to be a kids program. That did. Let's start with the A's. We're going to go down these alphabetically. Jordan Ayew, not my favourite when we signed him. Back under pre-Ruud van Nistelrooy. You gave him a B. It's very generous of you. I gave him a C+. Shall we see what we gave them this time?
Yeah.
You gave him a B. You didn't move on him. And I actually upped him a whole point to B+.
Yeah, which is surprising. I was expecting you to fall about when I kept my grade of a B, but I'm in a bit of a shock with you. But the reason I get a B, Chris, is it was hard done by not being selected most weeks. Because in some games, Chris, when he did play or came on, he was the only bugger that ran around or showed a bit of effort at times, minus probably 1 or 2 others. And I said it a bit tongue-in-cheek, but it's been a consistent throughout the whole entire season. He is Mr. Ronseal. He does exactly what he says on the tin. He always got about. He got on the opposition's nerves. He won us free kicks. I'd like to say he scored us vital goals in the pre-Ruud van Nistelrooy. I think just after we did this, when we first did the first one, he'd scored that late winner against Southampton. He'd got the equaliser against Ipswich. So we were, believe it or not, Chris, when we did this show, we were 16th. I can't remember how it ended. It's no spoilers for season 2, but we were 16th, Chris, and he was doing that. And even though he didn't play as much in the Ruud van Nistelrooy era as he was under Cooper, every time, Chris, barring maybe a game or 2 or an odd bit here and there, he was fairly consistent. So I just felt steady Eddie.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone up from a C+ to a B+, and I wasn't his greatest fan, as you know, when we signed him. But like you said, he does what it says on the tin. And I think we're going to find with a lot of these marks as we go through that if I was to go purely on the games where he was played on the wing, he probably wouldn't have moved. It'd have probably dropped down. But when he was played centrally, yes, he got us a couple of goals. But he did break play up. And I would be very happy at this stage. He has only got 1 season to go on his contract. But I would be very happy at this stage if he was our lead striker next season. Because if you can imagine him up front, holding the ball up for Fatawu and Mavadidi or even McAteer, and possibly El Canous or Alves coming onto it, I think that could really, really work well for us. But that B plus is really for his performances when he was central.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Chris. I throw back to the League One days, and even I think when we got promoted from the Championship, we had a lot of youth in them squads, but we had a Gary Taylor-Fletcher and a Kevin Phillips, or we had a Steve Howard alongside Matty Fright in the League One days, and Paul Dickoff was obviously back at the club in League One days. And I know they didn't feature as predominantly as much as the young players did, but you put someone like that on in a tough game, and he's going to hold them steady. He's going to, mentally just go, whoa, let's level, let's calm down. He's going to calm the situation down and help these youngsters develop throughout. So I think people may go, oh, and I know we're going to talk about him, but like Monga, massive contract, stay in, Nala, all this. I think keeping Ayew could be just as vital and important.
Yes,
to the task in next season.
I think so. When we talk about the other one we bought up front, Ray said, had we contracted for 17th, he would have had the moment of the season versus Southampton. I think, if he stayed up, yeah. It was an amazing goal. So are you? Yeah, overall doing better. Craig's in. Good evening, Craig. How are you doing? Buenete. Now then, this one was interesting. This is where we start to differ, young man.
Yeah.
Because you went you went B plus, and I went B for him under Steve Cooper. And I think he was better under Steve Cooper, wasn't he?
Oh, definitely. He started like a house on fire. He was hungry. He was getting around everywhere. I think he even scored his first goal for us under Cooper. I could be wrong, but he scored. And he looked the part. And at the time, he was looking more the part than a certain Canous was to fit into that role. There was already starts of don't fall in love with a loney like we did, like we had after the season before. And it just, wow. It was a lot better under Cooper than it ever was under Ruud.
Yeah, he got the goal versus Villa in our third match. Shall we see where he went though?
Yeah.
This is ladies and gentlemen. If you think that Brad falls out with Jordan Blackwell from the Mercury over his ratings, I'm going to hide under the table and get my cricket box on. Here we go. You've dropped him way down, as Elvis Presley would go, way down, way down. You've gone from a B plus to a D minus. I've kept him as a C.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion. It's just wrong.
Waiting for that.
No, in all seriousness, though, Chris, you are wrong. But no, also, the reason such a drop off is because there was just such a drop off from Buenete. Now, again, we're going to say this a lot for certain players, not entirely his fault. For whatever reason, whether it was, we heard about players wearing the wrong boots, we heard him having a fallout, we heard having a child's not a good enough reason to not stay overnight at a training ground. There was reasoning behind him being put in the background. And then by the time he was probably back into the mix, he just seemed to not care. He just seemed to go, well, what's the point? We're 8 points off safety or whatever we were at the time when he finally got back into the team. We've got no chance of staying up. I'm going to go back Brighton, who are going to send me out on loan again. So I don't need to impress because what's the point sort of thing. Then he went through this weird phase where he had another spell off, and then he came back with like Samson-style long hair, didn't he? And he seemed to have that flair a bit about him. Maybe he kind of went, oh, crap, they might actually want to loan me back, and then I'll be stuck in the Championship. I need to show I've got the flair for the Premier League, so at least I don't get dragged down with them. So, and I just was so disappointed because it sparked the potential. And I feel like when Leicester were killed off mid-season, so was his spark for the club, and He just never seemed to show that early stage form or anywhere close to it for me after that. He was just no good.
Well, you outvoted because Craig agrees with me and he's gone for a C. Again, I will say, look, if I was the manager, once we were sort of doomed, if you like, I wouldn't have even been picking him. You know, when we got relegated, you know, we should be looking at playing the players that are going to be here next season. You know, the youngsters and what have you. He was never going to be here because he was always going to be going back to Brighton, wasn't he? So I never understood why he was still being played. And when we were down, why bring him on? What we're trying to prove? Bring you know, one of the youngsters on. Again, a couple of games he just showed up. I think, like you said, we're going to say this a hell of a lot as we go through. When he was played in the right position, I think he looked better than. I don't think he's a winger.
Yeah, he did give off Atgun vibes, didn't he? You know, Atgun was brought in. You know, he was brought in before Fatawu because there was a bit of a negotiation with the Fatawu deal because we had to iron out his deal that inevitably brought him to the club. So he came in just in case something went wrong with that deal. And then obviously Fatawu hit the ground running, and then Atgun was kind of like, Enzo was kind of like, I need to be playing him. And he shoved him actually into the middle, didn't he? And it kind of worked with Buonanotte that his position wasn't right there. And when we put him in behind, you know, in that false 9 role, if you will, 10 role, he did seem to play a little bit better. But it's just a drop off and the attitude that stunk sometimes. Sometimes, Chris, even when we still had a chance and he was starting games, he stunk the place out.
We will agree to disagree on that, you know.
Yeah, because you're wrong. And that's why we'll disagree.
We'll see. Right, guys, if you think that one we disagreed on, we're about to go to Brad's favourite player, Connor Cody. Now, linked with Rangers and Russell Martin. I don't want him to go.
No, fuck off.
Right, let me just say this, right? You gave him a U last time. Probably you'd have given him an A+ for his interviews on TalkSport. I gave him a D-. I wasn't overly impressed with him at that point. But look, when you look at the defenders we've got, and I'm very much a case of, look, we've got down, we may have a points deduction, we may not be able to buy anybody, so we're going to have to sort of rely on the youngsters. We're still going to need somebody in that back line that's got a little bit.
It's all right, Chris, we've got the answer. Your love child's committed to stay in. We're great, we're fine, we're grand, move on. Fuck off to Scotland, you prick.
No. You mean me?
Yeah, both of you. You take Cody with you, mate. Drive him up there.
Thing is, I would sooner drive Vestergaard to Denmark than Cody to Scotland, because if we're talking Cody, if we're talking Vestergaard, and if we're talking Wout Faes, those are our 3 experienced defenders. Out of those 3, who would you want to keep?
Vestergaard.
Hang on. For a minute there, I thought you said Vestergaard.
Yeah, I'd rather keep Vestergaard because he actually knows. See, what were the biggest difference between Vestergaard and Cody is, right? If they're driving to work, right, if Vestergaard goes, oh no, we're going to be late. I'm going to step up a bit and get there quicker. And what Cody does, he goes, hello? Yeah? Nah, fuck that. I've got a TalkSport interview. I'll see you about 2:30, mate.
I don't think he was on TalkSport that much, you know.
Cody was supposed to be the captain, and he was so bad, Chris. He was so bad, so bad, so very bad, that we actually genuinely considered swapping him for someone 2 years older than him from Wolves. And the only reason we didn't was because of convoluted things with him that even if they released him, we couldn't have picked him up until this summer anyway. And guess who's been linked with us again? The 34-year-old who we were so willing to get in just to get this knobhead off our books. Bye-bye. See you later, as Shrek once said.
All I will say is...
Let it go.
No, that won't.
Sorry, I mean, he will only do... He's got to be given permission to do the radio, and that permission comes from the club. So the
Can't give him permission to piss off, because I can...
Oh dear, I don't think you're going to like about what I'm going to do here.
Come on, Jordan's product. A C! Hold on. That's not a fancy drawn use on its side, is it? A fucking C. Chris, I'm going to have to take a minute off. No, this is not a technical issue, ladies and gentlemen. This is me trying to avoid having a mild stroke.
What?
I mean, what games did you watch? Sorry, Christopher, swap glasses with me, mate. Maybe you'll see that you've actually... Sorry, guys, his glasses are out of date and broken. Put mine on, mate. You'll realise that's a C you've put, not a U, as in useless. Silly Chris. You've not meant to put a C for Cody, have you? Or are you calling him a C U next Tuesday? And that's why you put C.
No, I think out of those three that I was talking about, I think he was the better. Okay, so you're going to tell me that Wout Faes is better?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You hold on. How many times did you try and bring up them stats and they backfired on you because the clearance? Yeah. So your love child there, you're going to make them upset. How many times did you come out with these stats and then someone told you the better stat was the blocks and clearances, and then it ended up with 0 for Cody and 8 for Faes? I'd rather have Faes all day long. Yeah,
that was 2 matches, and I made him man of the match for 1 game.
And how many man of the matches did you give for Connor Cody before he became your love child?
He's not my love child.
Yeah. You just love a centre back,
Probably not many. I'm just trying to find out here. I'm just trying to see if I can get Connor Cody's stats up here. Right, he played 26 games, 22 starts, 2 goals.
Oh, yeah, so it's fucking Matt Elliott with 2 goals.
No. I just think, Craig's giving him a D, so he's kind of come between us. And he sort of said, sell Faes, sell Vestergaard. Yeah, he's got to be the one that we keep. Do I want Craig Dawson? No, I don't.
No, I don't either, but that was my point.
But would you sooner keep Cody or buy Dawson?
I'd rather shoot my foot off than do any of them.
Chances are Cody, if there's an offer comes in, will go simply because we're going to need. Well, it depends who we get, obviously, but points deduction and what have you. So
you know what's funny, Chris? We ironically have cover available for him. Brendan cover, the youngster.
Yeah, but you can't play.
We already have cover for him, so don't tell me we need cover. We've already got him by name.
So you can't have a back. You've got to have some experience there.
Yeah, we do. Now Ben Nelson spent a year out on loan at Oxford United, so he's got experience. He's 6 foot. He's 6 foot on. He'd be the exact same height, I think, as your love child Vestergaard.
He's off to Chelsea anyway.
We'll see.
No. I'm not having this. I'm trying to find some more stats here.
Can you smell that, folks? It's not. Is it cat? No. Is it dog? It's Chris saying Cody is a good defender. Oh, that's bullshit. That's what it is. It's just. Oh no. Sorry. It's not just bullshit. It's reeking of desperation when Chris is scrambling for stats, folks. There you go. Got him.
I'm sorry. You need an experienced defender, and I don't think we can go out and buy anybody. Look, he's an ex-England captain.
Yeah, David Nugent scored a goal for England. Don't mean I want him up front next season again.
Oh, come on. You'd have him up front next season with every bloody person that the shit that we've got at the moment. and you know it. Anyway, I've gone for a C. I'm right, you're wrong, and just got to accept it. Next up, now Koulibaly. I feel a bit sorry for this guy.
I feel very sorry for him.
He's talking about wanting to go to back home, and I don't blame him. I think Ruud van Nistelrooy, being the wanker that he is has been completely horrible. And I think when we come to James Justin, we'll see the marks as to what you get when you pick a left back to play at right back. And yes, I know he can play right back, Justin, but it's not his best position. And when you've got I think a natural right back is going to be better than a very, very good left back put in that right back position. So we couldn't rate him before because he came in January. Yep, he came in January. You may have missed and blinked and missed it, Brad, but we did sign him in January.
Yeah, but believe it or not, we also signed him very early on in January. It wasn't like he was a panic buy. What? Hold on. Let me just fact check this. Wasn't it Ruud van Nistelrooy that signed him because he desperately wanted a right back to play right back?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did indeed. Indeedy, but we'll come on to him. You've gone U-, which I think is a little bit unfair. I've gone D. Ray says there, still can't figure this one out. Ruud brought him in, they didn't play him at all. Because Ruud's just a fucking tosser. That's what it is. Look, you've gone U-. I can see why. But on that one game that he played, and I think he probably has only played one game, to be honest with you, he wasn't too bad. And again, with a lot of these marks, look, we know it's not always the player's fault,
It feels the reason I gave him a U- is probably more obvious when you really think about it. Is it's like the guy who you heard was getting transferred to your school. Oh, this kid's going to be great. He's going to bring our averages up. That's why we're trying to get him to come to our school, get him in the catchment area, and then he just never fucking bothered turning up for the exam. Well, this was sort of like that, but Ruud brought him in and then just decided he didn't want to play him. You can't grade somebody who doesn't kick a ball.
No.
I mean, had you not fucked up the ratings and allowed me to use an F, I might have been a bit kinder and, give him an F.
Craig's gone for an E.
I don't want to know about his drug taking habits on this channel.
Well said.
Sorry, Craig.
No, that was very quick. I hadn't thought of that. We don't go to E, D-, Craig, and then up down to U. But yeah, I think it's a bit unfortunate. It says here that he played 5 matches.
He must have come off the bench in the 90 plus.
Yeah, he only had one start. I don't know. But anyway, I do feel really, really, really sorry for him. I don't blame them the fact that he's pissed off here. I really don't.
I don't blame him. And if I was Leicester, because we still haven't got an idea on who's going to manage or if there even is going to be a change in management, I'd get this deal done quickly. I think it's better to get rid of that first. It's not his fault. I'd love to have seen him play, but
he said there, we all need to take here at the start of the season. We bloody did by the end of the season, I'll tell you. Right, I've got my red pen here, and I think I'm going to have to give you a big fat here, Brad. Mr. Daka, look, what can we say that we've not said all season? He's shit, he needs to go. Whatever has happened, it's not worked for him at Leicester, and it happens. And look, I can't say, and Craig said there, E for effort. He does try, and you could argue it again. It's the way that he's played. Maybe he needs to be in a 2 or whatever, but it hasn't worked for him at Leicester. And sometimes it does. When you sign a player, it doesn't work. but I think it's time for him to move on now.
Yeah, I'd agree. Although if we're going to be stuck with Ruud, he'll be the leading striker next season. So be prepared for a lot of midfielders scoring goals because he won't get any. But yeah, it is, Chris. And in a weird sense, this could end up being like a what was it, Kramaric, and this tells you the difference in leagues all over the world, not just Germany or France, but all over, how football's played differently and how it can suit somebody or not. Because I don't think Kramaric would have actually been that much of a success back in the Premier League with anyone else. And the reason I say that, Chris, is why didn't no one go back in for him? When he had a few good seasons at Hoffenheim, why didn't someone else go, well, hold on a minute, maybe Leicester just messed it up? Why didn't someone from Spain suddenly want interest into him? I don't know. I think he played out or is still playing in Hoffenheim. I can't remember how old he is or what's gone on with Chris. It's been 10 years, so he could well be retired now. But that's my point. Daka played well in the Austrian league. Now he could get picked up and go to a different country or even a different continent and play his football elsewhere and then go and bang in 20-plus goals. And we'll suddenly have fans going, say you play him to his strengths, this is what we could have had. And it's not always the case. So, yeah, I'm with you, Chris. I've always liked Daka and I've always pleaded and begged that he does well and has a breakout season that knocks on to another one. And it just never ever happened. And I'm just at that point where it's like, for your own good, go and find somewhere else to play your football.
What do you call the team this season?
Oh,
redemption.
Yeah, unfortunately, even
he doesn't fall into that, does he? Unfortunately.
Well, he applied for the class and he missed the deadline. So
well. Yeah, we probably hit it in the goal and he couldn't find it. He scored one goal and we suddenly thought, wow, hang on a second. And then it was not to be. Now, what are you thinking, Brad?
I'm just thinking nothing changed. Nothing changed from when we did that to when it ended. He couldn't get any worse. And he certainly didn't get any better. So you minus, it's like when you say 5, 6, 5.5. But I just kept him the same because he didn't.
Was it against Villa that he scored the goal?
No, West Ham.
I knew it was a Clout and Blue.
Wrong team.
But it just, we suddenly thought, well, hang on a second. But no, it wasn't to be.
No, it wasn't.
Now, the next one we agree on.
Finally. No, it has to happen at some point. Yeah.
You went you. I went you minus. Look, at least Ayew, like you say, does what he says on the tin. Jacobo Reed's tin's been open, emptied, and left to rot somewhere. He's like, if Ayew's tin is Heinz Beans, this guy is sort of Aldi's own brand.
I don't knock Aldi. Don't discredit Aldi that much.
No, that was
off the back of the wagon from Lidl.
I remember I live above an Aldi, so I'm not going to criticise them too much.
No, we know your drama with Aldi. We know Aldi Gate.
I can't find Cordova Reed here. But look, what's he done? What has he done? He scored a goal. He did get a goal, I believe, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He scored. Did he score against Brighton? He scored the winner against Brighton, the equaliser against Brighton. 2-2. Well, they were the days. Them two get funny, that isn't it? We've done Daka and Jacobo Reed, and they were the 4 points we managed in the first 2 games of Ruud's era.
Yeah. he got 1 goal and 2 assists in his time with us. I remember seeing him in a pre-season game, and he was really getting stuck in. And I thought, yeah, maybe. But look, there we go. I couldn't go any lower, and you joined me.
Yeah, bottom meat barrel, because
Yeah,
like you've already summed up perfectly, Chris. We had 2 players that were 30 plus that joined us from. Okay, this season they've had better seasons, but mid-range Premier League sides of Crystal Palace and Fulham, respectively. On Crystal Palace, I really hope they win their appeal to get kept in the Europa League, because that's just a stupid rule. It's not like they've made outrageous signings through a dual ownership or whatever. But
well,
anyway,
I think they're going to do what Nottingham Forest owner did and put the shares in a trust, so they could do something like that.
Yeah, sure. But back to this. Yeah, I was thinking, Dakova Reed, yeah, he's done all right for Fulham. Fulham fans don't hate him, but they don't rate him. But he'll be a good little signing. No, he was bad under Cooper, and he's the only player that deservedly got worse and didn't get much game time, because there's certain players we're going to talk about who we're not going to talk too kindly about, and they were still better and far better in comparison to this absolute penis. The saddest thing is, Chris, is just like Ayew, we could be stuck with this one.
I mean, we haven't. Well, we have, because he's got another 2 years on his contract. Ayew's got another 1 year on his contract. Unfortunately, Dakova Reed's got 2. Look, I think I could, if we're not rating Edouard, because of course we never saw him, but who is that man? But I think I could probably rate Edouard higher than Dakova Reed. Vicky says, hello everybody. Tonight I am here for some clarity. Recently back from Canada. Welcome back, Vicky. To hear we have signed and lost hundreds of players, and now we have about 6 managers. Yeah, welcome to the confusion that is Leicester City. Now, there's some bright spot, bright bits to the season, and I think this was one of the few. Bilal El Khanous, 20 million we bought him for-ish. We got to sell him for the same amount, apparently, if you believe the papers. Although apparently he has now put up the fact that he's a player at Leicester City on his social media. Why he hadn't done that before, I don't know, but there you go. You gave him last time a C. I gave him a C+. Should we see what we gave him this time?
Let's.
You gave him a B+, which was a nice big jump. I've actually gone full out on this one and given him an A+, because there was times when we were watching doing those watch-alongs, and he seemed to be the only player that was making any sort of effort.
Oh, there was, Chris, and to be honest with you, that C grade at the start, he'd only just started to come into the mould a bit regular and was starting to slowly make an impression. Because I wouldn't say I wasn't enamoured, but I was worried he wasn't going to live up to the pace, but he's done well. Now, you've already given hints and said certain things that might lead to why he's not my A-star student, or at least an A-grade student, and that's purely because what we started to see of him was pretty special already. He'd scored that goal, against Villa away. He'd had some bit part appearances here and there, and then he became the highlight player, didn't he, Chris? Like you said, you're talking after match, who we're talking about the most. It was probably, unless minus Vardy, because we always talked about Vardy, no matter what happened. It was usually El Khanous. But you know when you do so well, Chris, you kind of get tougher, don't you, on trying to grade them, because you don't want them just going, oh well, now you're an A, thing to relax. You kind of want to keep pushing your students to do better. And if he is going to stay at Leicester, I can see that he will be top of the class next year. I have, minus the attitude problem, I'd assume. I have already stated that he does have the potential, should he stay, to be our next Riyad Mahrez. Now, I'm not saying I'm not saying that Mahrez, El Khanous will be on that level, talent and skill wise, because you can't. You have to put Mahrez in a separate category. He's on a category with players of that caliber, but he could be thereabouts, if you know what I mean, Chris. And similarities for them having a year in a championship and then coming back up, hopefully, the season after, who knows. But that's what you'll see when we get to them, folks, why he's not the top of my class, but he's clearly top of Chris's.
Yeah, well, he is. Ray says Bilal really started to trick with Vardy at the end, too little too late, of course. Again, look, I mean, his main position is central midfield. Attacking midfield, is his main position. I do apologise. Central midfield is his second. Third is a left winger. How many times did we see him on the right wing?
Yeah.
Again, I'm sorry, Ruud, square pegs, square holes. He had 75% of his games, he was in the starting 11. 68% on average minutes for the club. 16% goal participation. 2 goals, 3 assists, and we think, well, that's good. That says how bad our season's been. For me, he reminds me, and bear with me on this, he does remind me of Paul Gascoigne. Now, before everybody starts jumping down my throat and saying he's no Paul Gascoigne, let me finish, Brad. Let me finish. Come back. Come back.
Just give me a minute, because I had this image of the whole round moat situation with the bits. Sorry, I'll leave it.
Oh, you bloody would, wouldn't you? I'm not going to... You can come back and you can... I want to see your face when I say this.
Okay.
Come on back. Come on. Come to Daddy. That sounds wrong, doesn't it?
Don't. I've just... Oh, no, I double-clicked it now. I won't come back. There we are. Go on.
Right. Let me say why. You know where I lived for about 20-odd years, up in Burnley.
Yeah, poor Burnley.
Yes, I know. Poor me, and my boys, because that was where we started watching our football. And it was during what we call the Chris Waddle years, when Burnley were known as Burnley nil. It was pretty boring. But one of the things they signed Ian Wright, at the end of his career. And they also signed Paul Gascoigne at the end of his career. Paul Gascoigne's time at Burnley was absolutely awful. Well, I may be exaggerating there. But you could see that Paul Gascoigne, and this was Burnley, who at that point were a mid-table championship team, pretty much like we were back in the day, in the 90s. And you could see that what he was trying to do, the rest of the Burnley team could not keep up with. He'd get the ball off somebody, and then he'd try to play a 1-2, and he'd just play it into space because the other guy had stopped. And I felt in some of the games that was El Khanous. And that is saying how bad our squad was. That El Khanous was trying to do things that the rest of the team couldn't get their head round.
Yeah, true.
And that's why I gave him an A+. Now, shall I put it on?
Go on, man.
I've got to say, I don't know which is the front and which is the back, if I'm honest with you. Does that work?
Yeah.
Because you can bloody see.
You're looking you're looking a little bit more like Mrs. Brown.
That's nice. Right, here we go. Because coming up, Mr. Wout Faes, who we're being told is going to leave us this summer.
I've been saying that for about 4 summers.
Yes.
He's only been
You
here.
gave him a D minus, which I thought was very generous. I gave him a U. Shall we see where we went with this one?
Yeah, because I actually don't remember.
I actually look like Coco the Clown, don't I? I've got a hair in my mouth.
You look like that picture that's Nicola Sturgeon wearing a cap.
I can't do a Scottish accent, but I've got a hair in my mouth, and it's been a few years, I can tell you. Sorry. Oh, dear. Right, here we go. You gave him a D bloody plus. You actually improved him. Man, seriously. What the hell?
I did it out of spite. I did. I improved him out of spite because you all gave him a hard time. You all slagged him off. And to be fair, for most of the time, you're probably right. But
Yes.
still, I did it out of spite because some of you during the ratings, and Chris, you will actually agree with me on this. Some people, before we even said a word about his performance, about phase 1, about phase 0, about phase 2. Even when he had good games.
No, nobody ever said about phase 2. Let's just be honest.
No, Chris. I distinctly remember he was a man of the match for you. I do. I know that. I don't need my fat book check. Yeah, you sit there silently, sir. Yeah. I see, like Craig jumped straight in on the U. But there was way more times. I can guarantee you, there was way more times we spoke about positive things that Cody did, the phase did more than we ever did about Cody.
No.
Yeah, you see, no, you're in this delusional hatred of him, so you just refuse to acknowledge the fact that you made him man of the match in one of your games, right? And I'll never let you forget that, right?
One game, because he made 13 clearances. Still didn't make any tackles.
No, Chris, let me just get me fat book out as you like your stats. Let me check. Wild Face, 1 man of matches. Let me just try from 38 backwards. No. Oh, no. Oh, does that? No. Oh, no, that was a coffee stain. No. I'm sorry, Chris. I just checked all your man of the matches, and the statistics show me you didn't give a single one to Conor Cody. So you thought at some point during the season he was always better than Conor Cody. I'm just saying, Chris, I think because we don't like him as a person, people instantly give him bad rep.
Right, let me say this.
Go on.
No. I'm going to interject there. The one time I gave him man of the match, Cody wasn't even on the pitch.
Yeah, because it was that shit. He was getting picked ahead of him. Yeah, there you go. You've just proved my own point, mate. You haven't made that any better.
No. I think he was down in London.
I know why. He was too busy at talks.
Yeah, exactly. I'm taking this off. It's itching. No, look. No, he's a waste of oxygen. You know, while he's breathing oxygen, somebody somewhere else is dying. As Ray says, classic Wout yesterday when Belgium conceded, arms in the air, ready to point fingers. It's not me, Gov. It's not me. That should be his catchphrase. He did score a goal, in fairness, but if I could have gone lower than a U minus, I would have done. If I could have gone to Z, he wouldn't have got that high. You know what I mean? So, no, I'm sorry, you were being too generous.
All I'm saying is that'll teach you. That upgrade was done more in spite of everybody who, before we said anything about his performances, were giving him 1s and 2s and 0s. Shame on you. I love you, Wout, if no one else will.
And if he's here next season, I'm going to remind you of that. Hang on, I'm going to write that down. 1 minute, 49 minutes, 49 minutes. Brad, I love you out.
Yeah.
Well, he's even got a stupid bloody name, hasn't he? Wow. Right. Patawu would normally come up next, but obviously he was injured for the second part of the season, so we can't compare him. Hermansen got an A star from you, not just an A plus, everybody. Goalkeeping fraternity here. He got an A star off Let Me Lick Your Arse, Brad, there. I gave him just a normal A. Did you used to be a goalkeeper by any chance, Brad?
Do you know what, Chris? I wasn't going to say anything, and I'm sure no one in the chat knows about it, but now you're exposing me. Yes, Chris, I have been a goalkeeper.
I am not exposing you. Believe you me. There is nothing less I'd rather do. So, shall we see? Well, he can't get any better than you because you've taken it higher than an A+. You took him to an A star. Oh, dear.
Yes. This isn't his fault, though, Chris. And again, we're kind of going back to the bad management. He had a good teacher under Cooper, and then Cooper was sacked, and we hired this Dutch bloke, and he was useless. And the reason his grade went down, Chris, is when you asked me to do the regrading for this, what stuck firm in the memory for me was, and this will reflect when we get to our other goalkeeper, was my thoughts from Everton away onwards. There was no logical reason for Stolarczyk to have been dropped for that game just to rush Hermansen back. We were in a hell of a lot safer hands than we were with Danny Ward as our number 2. And we were all, as fans, fairly confident in Stolarczyk's ability, which he went on to prove. And I made the point, yes, we conceded within 10 seconds that game, but I made a point about 2 of their 4 goals, Chris, where I felt Stolarczyk fully, on that pitch in the form he was in, would have raced out and probably dealt with them. I'm not, again, we didn't dispute the result, but what we were saying is Hermansen was not fully fit. He was rushed back. Now, whether we put him in for an MOT service early to try and make sure he's ready to sell, ASAP, which is what people are putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with him having that operation before the season was over, it's what dented his grade, Chris, dramatically, because he had poor performances, and it wasn't until the second injury that he had that Stolarczyk got the go ahead to play, and then obviously he chose to have the club chose to push him for the operation and keep Stolarczyk in goal, that he'd only just started getting back to his normal form, Chris. And it begs the question, and there was many questions asked to Ruud, why didn't you just stick with Stolarczyk? Maybe Hermansen didn't need this operation. He could have recovered quickly, because it soon came to light, Chris, that they'd put this operation off because they wanted Hermansen in. And you can't tell me, Chris, that we weren't all fairly relaxed and comfortable with Stolarczyk in goal in the Premier League while he recovered. So that's why his grade stopped. It wasn't on him. It was more the people in the background that helped his go down.
No, you're totally right. And unfortunately, I don't think any player, even, the GOAT, should ever just walk back into a team because of who they are if the person that has replaced them is doing well.
Yeah.
I think that sends out all the wrong signals. I felt a bit guilty giving him a B because, look, I know everybody hated, Danny Ward and, but he's gone now, etc. Craig's gone for a C for him. I know. He may be going to, like you said earlier, might be going to Wrexham. A goalkeeper, no matter how good that goalkeeper is, he can only be as good as the defence that's in front of him. if Gordon Banks had been out, and we said this, didn't we say this so much in his last season about Kasper Schmeichel? Yes, all right, maybe he didn't come off his line, blah, blah, blah. But a good goalkeeper, if he's leaving, if the defence is leaving the goalkeeper exposed, then Gordon Banks, Peter Shilton, and Ray Clements altogether ain't going to be able to stop things going through. I think we all would agree with that, Vicky. All agree with that. And let's be honest with you, when you've got a player like Wout Faes in front of you, or Yannick
sorry. Or Connor Cody.
I never know. This is my part. It's gonna be difficult for you to have a good game. So I did feel a bit sorry giving him a B, but he had one clean sheet. He saved one penalty. I couldn't. I had to drop him, as indeed Ward dropped many of the balls. But yeah, I couldn't go higher than a B. Now, are you ready for Mr. Justin? Also, Ray just said that, didn't we get most of our results with Stolarczyk in goal? I think we probably did. We will come on to Stolarczyk in part 2. Mr. Justin, and I think when we gave him a D+, both of us, at the end of the Cooper reign, he was playing right back then, wasn't he?
Yeah, and in fact, the reason I kept him above water was this was not too long after the Arsenal performance. We inevitably lost 4-2, but he had his best game of the season by far that day. Yes. So, yeah, it was around. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm bleeding. I've just noticed. Wow.
Yeah, okay. So I could say the same about you because I don't know how you've improved him. I'm going to just repeat what I said throughout many post matches. He's utterly useless on that right-hand side. He got caught out of position on that right-hand side. He was the reason that when balls came into the boxes, Cody Vestergaard or Faes or Ecoli, occasionally, who did play, believe it or not, didn't know where to go because Justin couldn't decide whether he wanted to stick on the right where he was supposed to be playing or come in and cover as third centre-back. And if your centre-backs don't know what you're doing, how are they supposed to do their job? He got absolutely torn to shreds down that side. I remember the Wolves game, Chris, they triangle passed him to death. It was almost like bullying. It was almost like they were bullying him because he was running around, bless him, trying to mark them and get the ball off him. And they were just going, awful. Should never have played on the right-hand side. If we'd only assigned a right back in January, we may never have had to deal with this, Chris. It's just a damn shame we never got a right-footed player out on the right back because we had to suffer with him getting his shorts, pants, and everything else pulled down week in, week out. Utterly useless as a right back, would never get this grade if he'd have played left back.
I agree 100% with you. And I can
never a C-.
Well, let me come on to this because I can remember when I'm sorry, let me just get a drink of water. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I can remember when I saw him against Southampton last season, and he'd been out injured. And he came back and he was on the right. And I wasn't happy with him. I didn't think he played very well, but I was prepared to say it was his first game back. So, maybe he was a bit ring rusty. We both said when we gave him the D pluses before, it was because he was out of position. And I'm going to be honest with you, and Craig agrees with you. I'm going to be honest with you. There was a little bit of the sympathy vote in there.
No. Not before funding students, Chris. They'll never learn otherwise.
But would you agree that had he been playing on the left, he'd have had a better season?
Yeah, he would have, but he didn't. I mean, you're not asking me to grade him
Yeah,
on
yeah, no,
you
no,
know,
no.
on hypotheticals, but yeah, he would have had a better season had he played
As I
less.
said, I'm not arguing with you, but I just feel, I don't know, I just felt a little bit sorry for him. He was no worse for me under Van Nistelrooy than he was under Cooper. If you look at it as a team, the whole team was worse. I'm gonna say I'm going for the sympathy vote, and that was one of you actually did actually write down F for him.
Yeah, because some fucking idiot wouldn't let me use the F grade. But yeah, that's what I wanted to use because he on the right he was fucking useless. But Chris forgot his alphabet and GCSE grades, folks. So it's not my fault. But yeah, you know naturally you change it to a U. But yeah, just again, Chris, it's one of them. It's not his fault, but every team, Chris, every post match, a bit like talking about Canoes in a good sense, we were always talking about, and I know you said it in your watch along, Justin's getting, you know, they're attacking down that left hand side again because they know Justin's no good, and that's sadly the sad truth of it. I don't have sympathy, Chris. Kids won't learn.
I've got it. It's not about winning; it's about taking part, Brad.
Well, we'll give them a pissing participation trophy. No,
I will accept with you, Brad, here that I maybe have been a tad over generous.
Good. I'm glad you're thinking on my wavelength. Well done, mate.
Said today that he may be leaving. Last time we got relegated, he went out on loan. C minus you gave him last time. I gave him a D. Shall we have a look what we gave? Well, this one's interesting. You've actually improved him a bit, and I've just kept him the same.
To be honest with you, I couldn't remember what I graded him, so I actually gave him a C. I would have kept him the same. I should have looked and seen what I actually gave him originally.
I did send you the link so that you could see.
Yeah, you did, and I completely forgot to take note of it when I gave you mine across because I was just like, I wrote the names down on the messenger and then just gave my grade. But Ayew, we are again C. You know, I probably would have kept him at a C minus, but I commit to my C. And the reason being is, Chris, ironically, there was an opportunity, Chris, where we could have had Christensen and Luke Thomas on the same pitch at the same time, but we could have had Christensen as a left winger.
We did,
and not as a left wing back. And to be honest with you, when we did do that, I felt he did try something, but there was clearly something that was untrusting in him because the amount of times, Chris, and I don't know if we saw the same stream because sometimes you don't see everything the same depending on where you're getting your streams from. He'd go down the left completely unmarked. The opposition weren't bothered with him, which maybe should have been a red flag in its own right. But he was putting his arm up, asking for the ball in acres of space and never got it. They seem to want to do, and now maybe that was the managerial instructions to keep passing it around 450 times. But he just seemed to get a bit of a bum rap, even though he was starting every game under Ruud. So I just felt he wasn't as bad as people made out. But I'm with a few people in the chat and on the social medias. Let's get some money for him. Let's get rid of him. Because we have to remember as well, Chris, it wasn't his fault. He left in the championship last time out. He wanted to stay, but Enzo went, are you going to become an inverted wing back? And he went, I can't do that. I'm not going to do it. And he went, well, piss off out on loan then. So it wasn't really his fault he wasn't here last time round. But I would try and recoup some of our money we spent on him and moving on.
I think when you look at him and how we've graded Thomas, which will be in part 2 of the show, you'll probably see why we're saying, yeah, maybe it's time for Christensen to move on. The problem for me with Christensen, and again, this probably wasn't his fault, but every time he went forward with the ball, he'd turn around and come back again because there was nobody to play it into the box to. Probably wasn't his fault, not his fault that, Ruud van Nistelrooy's playing with the striker as an extra midfielder or whatever. But yeah, I just felt a lot of the time he was running about doing absolutely nothing, and that's why I gave him a D, because I don't think he improved, if you know what I mean. I think he was as he was, if you like. Right, so this is the last one of this part of the show, everybody. Mr. Mavadidi, it's all I want to say to you. If there's any Please fans watching. Ray agreed with me, by the way, D. Craig even went to D minus. Or was that Craig? Was that for Justin? I'm not sure. Guys, write the initials down so we know who you're talking about with the marks. Mavadidi, you gave him a C plus. I gave him a B minus. Look, that's the Nat's penis, isn't it, between the two marks? So no difference there. Obviously got injured towards the end, as everybody sees. Honestly, we never had this many injuries when PK is a minus Z, says Michael. We didn't seem to have all these injuries at Beaver Drive. It's just that the bloody Seagrave, grave being the operative word. But let's have a look how we voted him this time. Interesting, we both taken him down. Not literally, by the way, can I say?
Yeah. And again, a little bit on the managerial front, just when we needed that pace and we needed that inspiration and firepower to be getting us up the field, he just couldn't get a kick on the pitch. He couldn't get a game. And then sometimes when we finally got rewarded with it, he'd have a good performance, maybe two good performances. And we'd go, hey, this is it. And then he'd just drop off again. Now, again, I said he had Harvey Barnes syndrome. The managers knew he was potentially a very good, tricky player. So they had the three-pronged marking system on him. What I mean by that was one was just behind him, one was dead in front of him, and one was off centre, but also in front of him, cutting out that middle run into the box, which he likes to do. And he'll be able to do that more in the Championship. It's just a bit of a misfortune. I do feel a little bit bad that I rated him as low as a D, but don't play, no C, no improvement. I can't, you know what I mean? I don't really remember too many games after.
I get that, when there is three players marking you, which, like you say, there was many a time when he got hold of the ball. But then again, the manager should be coming along and teaching him what to do in that position and how to get out of that, or get players up there to support him so he can pass it on.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, not often did he pass it on. Quite often he actually just tried to do one too, and that's his problem. He just one too many touches for me. If three touches and you pass it, Mavadidi will do 4 or 5 touches and lose it.
Yeah, I felt like Cooper was trying to educate him in the difference of the Premier League and how to maybe try and mould him on the training ground pitch into someone who could do it and gain what the difference is in the Premier League and what he's going to have to change it. And Ruud just sort of expected it to happen. And I know he's not a spring chicken. We're not talking a 20-year-old, 21-year-old. He's actually 20. I think he's 26, 27. So he's kind of got into this end of English football later on in life. But I feel like, again, shows you the difference in management. Maybe Cooper was just breaking through to him and getting him to understand what he needs to do and changing things up for the Premier League. And Ruud just kind of went, go on then. Come on, you're 26. You should know by now. And it's not always that easy, is it, Chris?
Maybe the Premier League came a season too soon, and another season in the Championship will do him good. We will find out, guys. That's it for part 1. I'm going to go off and point Percy and water the plants. I'm sure Brad is as well. What we're going to do is we're going to log off this. Give us literally just 5 minutes just to do what I said. And we'll be back on a new show with part 2. So we're going to come off this and we're going to log in and do a new show, which I said was 8:30, but will be about 8:15. And then we'll run through McAteer through to Brad's favourite player, Winks. Remember, like, share, and click that notification bell. And subscribe as well if you're new. I'll see you in 5, Brad.
See you in 5, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.